didn't just live here because it was cheap. There were a lot of people who lived here because it was fun. One great thing about artistic communities, we were always the most accepting. Gay, no problem. Black, no problem. Weirdo, we take the dregs. And freaky fucking people. It's part of the deal. The excitement of being around others and seeing the art being done by others just buoyed me up. When I was 22 and 26 or whatever, I had energy to burn. I could paint a painting in a day. Painting in a tiny room in the American Hotel, I was able to come up with a lot of quantity of work, and hopefully some quality with it. And a lot of friends around bought it, so it becomes energized by that. And I try and have some low-price stuff along with the high-price stuff so that friends can still afford it. I sold paintings for a 6-pack and a carton of cigarettes. I never gave away a painting for free. One night in Al's Bar, I made $3,000, and that was in 1985 or 86, so that was a ton of money. I just have a lot of affection for painting Al's Bar, do a lot of pool table paintings, do a lot of the 4th Street Bridge. They're not always literally those places, but they're the spirit of them, the urban, tragic, romantic decay stuff. It became the landscape here because if you're looking for something else that isn't here, you got to be able to look at the trash in the gutter and go, wow, that's kind of interesting looking, because that's your flora and your fauna. A lot of the cartoony nature of my work suits a lot of this stuff for the neighborhood of doing buildings and bridge scenes in a more animated fashion with these urban environments where street lamps and railroad signs and things that are actually physically in this neighborhood make their way into the paintings. They put a lot of effort into the composition is number one for me. It has to really work. And I dance around from a lot of images, but this area was very pivotal. I did paint Al's Bar quite a bit. One of the breakthrough paintings was of putting the pool balls instead of the people. All the pool tables had to look kind of askew and drunken, because that's how it was in Al's Bar. I did play pool quite a bit. I was never very good at it, but nobody knew. I would always win when they sunk the 8 ball. It was an activity in the bars. Get off the bar stool for a minute and you flaunt your stuff for anyone in there, or you can just have great conversations. It was great. There was a regular thing with people putting their name on the chalkboard, and it was very important for my imagery. I still paint pool tables to this day because of that. Newt's Harem Night. As you walk in through the little porthole entry door, the way it was at the time, they would put up a temporary thatched roof entrance into a tropical theme, and ladies' drinks were half price. Everyone knew that Ray Newton was legendary over the years. Everyone loved him, and especially the ladies. He was a sleeper all these years ago. He was just one of the nicest guys, smart and funny in the world. With Charlie Becker, that was another one. He would have Charlie's 12-inch cactus chili. There was actual food in Al's Bar, and he would cook it in his room in a crock pot. He lived up here as well, and he was managing the bar. And it was genius. If somebody has a restaurant, you don't need stoves and ovens, a crock pot. Go old school. Chili and Fritos, which you can slit open the bag and pour the chili in. It was awesome. I had the first tab, and I still have it in my scrapbook. And there was one night where it said, like, 3 pitchers of beer and 6 packs of cigarettes. You could buy cigarettes at the bar or whatever. And I'm like, I keep looking back at that night going, that must have been a hell of a night. What happened? You know, it was beer and wine only. Pretty freaking basic. But at one point, I believe Mark got the idea, and he had Harvey's Bristol Cream Sherry. It sounds terrible, but it was like having a shot. So it was fucking fantastic. And he had these beautiful little delicate glasses, and it was a great moneymaker, but people kept stealing the glasses. So he got pissed and he stopped it. And it sucked because it was such a creative way to bring something to the bar. Sandy Cruz. Probably the first night I came here, she was the bartender. Holly Phillips, I'd actually known at Cal Arts in 78, 79. There were several other people and girls who lived in the hotel. We decided to have a basketball team, the Am-Ho Slam Hoes. And right around the corner is Mary Knoll School. The gates were open, so you could just go in and shoot a few hoops. Ron Schneck was our coach. He's a whole nother story. Old Ron Schneck was a trippy dude. We were terrible, but we all had like little names. I was Jet Jabbar. Holly to the Hoop, but I believe we might have been the one and only girls basketball team for the American Hotel. I don't think we ever played anyone either, so we were undefeated. Yay! The doctor. There's so many weird stories to tell, and I don't know how many of them the statute of limitations has run out on, but he was such a trip. When I first met him, he was doing like antique stuff, reselling things, and then years later he evolved into working on Amtrak, which is a great thing, and you'd see him come back in his uniform with his folding bike. I did a portrait of him once in a doctor's white coat with Dr. Jones written on it. And then I wrote something about being raised by wolves, educated by circus nuns, expert at pasta salad, explosives, and innuendo. I tried to tell it at his funeral, and I broke up and I just couldn't remember the words, and I got off the stage. It was horrible. His liver was shot and he was dying, and lived around the corner, and I didn't come around as much. I was down at the Santa Fe Art Colony, and I just didn't go out a lot. Stay home, drink, paint, hung over the next day, eat Doritos, watch bad TV, switch from hillbilly hand fishing to Masterpiece Theater. I'm very eclectic. I love my television. I did come out because Don was dying. Went to his house, got really, really drunk. Everyone there, it was like there's some grand king receiving people. It was just awesome. I really didn't want to drive. I don't drink and drive at all. So I pushed him over on this tiny little full-size bed. Here he is dying, and I'm drunk, and I just got a crash. And I want to sleep with the dying guy. Oh, it was so just perfect to do with him, and I felt so bonded to be able to do that, and he passed away a couple days later. Now we can add Don Jones to the many, many people I slept with. Not intentionally that way, but oh man, people still, when I do an art show or something, and I don't know if I remember, or I might just go, did I sleep with you in the 80s? I mean, don't know, remind me. Joel was really pleasant and fun to be around. He had this history with Second City in Chicago, and he wrote this great play, Mayhem at Mayfield Mall. Well, not great, but fucking fantastic as far as all the crazy effects. And I designed the monster for it, and a bunch of the props and set stuff and some puppet things. And it was so great because it was at Al's Bar National Drive-In Theater. We all sat in our cars in the little parking lot next to here, and he set up actual little speakers like in a drive-in. And they were doing the play up there, and instead of clapping, you honked your horn. It was awesome, and it was so great that years later he recreated it with a much bigger budget, and we did it again, and it was just fabulous. But something happened to Joel along the way. Alberto Miari's opened probably the greatest little bar that lasted for 6 months ever in the world across the street from Al's. Joel started bartending there, and the sweetest guy in the world all of a sudden turned into Mr. Crotchety. What do you want? What you doing? Get a haircut, you loser. Some of it was comedy, and some of it was really fucking serious. Joel then opened Joel Bloom's general store, and he was that way with everyone who came in. He was really kind of a prick about it. He should never have been in the service industry. He was such a nice guy, but people would come in and ask him, hey, have you seen Jesse Easter? Or where's that band playing? Or what's going on at Al's? And he's like, the responsibility of being the mayor of downtown then, people use you as a kiosk for information, is pretty exhausting. It was a really hard position for him to be put in. He really was a warm and wonderful human being, but he had a little bit of a hard candy coating on him sometimes. Every day he would walk his dogs around 3 p.m. and yell up at my window, and he always had different names for me, for Royal Jetness and Jetty Lou and all kinds of different names, and every day I would go down and wave at him and the dogs. That was nice. The one he did all the time and in public anywhere I went, when I'd walk into a room, just when I want to sidle on in there, and I'd hear, Jett! Over and over and over. And all eyes would turn, and like the onslaught would come of all your friends that you got to meet and greet and talk to all at once. And yeah, that was kind of a pain in the ass, actually. But I shouldn't complain. It's nice to have so many friends. When you used to come to this area for probably about a mile around, you had your personal homeless guy. He owned that block, and he would keep all the others away. And Lloyd was ours. He'd always be hanging out near the front of the bar when you're going in and out. And he took a shine to me, and he had a hoarse old voice, and he looked like something out of a Hemingway novel. He would roll his pants up to the knee in his shaved white hair, which kind of had that Hemingway rummy look. He also had the one pale blue eye thing that sort of didn't work, but was looking off into space. The singing was the thing he loved to sing.
Oh, I know that I should hate you after all you put me through. How can I be bitter when I'm still in love with you?
I sort of made a ritual when he was down there that before I'd go into the bar, I'd plop down on the sidewalk. He'd have usually a bottle of Four Roses whiskey, which I would try and wipe thoroughly before I took a sip, but maybe not always. I would have him sing to me, and he knew so many songs with word roses in them.
You'd have a room full of roses if I said a rose or white for every time I cried all night.
But then it could also be really annoying, like it'd be in July at 4 in the morning, and you'd hear him out there crooning at the top of his lungs. And it's like, oh, I just want to sleep.
You could send some roses too. Well, I don't want a room full of roses. I just want my arms full of you.
Once when my car got broken into, a little Honda Accord, I didn't fix the window right away, and he took to sleeping in the back of it. One morning I came out and he had 2 piñatas of donkeys, one blue and one pink, sitting in the front in the passenger seat like a present, his rent, for sleeping in my car. And I loved him so much because when you come out, you see these 2 donkeys that look like they were driving in the car. I used to like go do errands, put the donkeys in the back, and then when I came home and parked, I put the donkeys back for like 3 months. On 2 occasions, I drove away after I was already on the freeway and everything. All of a sudden I hear commotion in the back, and Lloyd was in there. And he'd always say, Jett, we're going to get married and we're going to have twins. We're calling Pete and Repeat. Didn't always make perfect sense, but he was perfectly fun to be around and a great corner guy, your corner guy. When I just came back recently, I was shocked how it really wasn't that the changes had obliterated what was here before. You're building on the rubble, and the rubble's still there, and it's almost like sediment in the rocks that a geologist could see, because there's still homeless people with carts. There's still groovy bohemian artists. There's still down and out people who are just living off the grid a little bit. And then there's rich people in their suits. There's valet parking. But God, the restaurants, there's places to eat, and good places, a little expensive. I remember the first day I went to Boris Kitchen, we were just so starving and desperate. I said, I'm not paying $12 for a hot dog. But we were so hungry, I went in and it was great. I can see where there's lines around the block. The bus stops right in front of here. That's amazing. That's good. I thought that gentrification would change the place more. It's just adding to it. Anybody who gets a little persnickety about the old days, well, they're still here. That's all happening, except for the fact that the bar, Al's, is gone. I don't want to be a naysayer about it, that the old days were perfect, because they sure as hell weren't. There was a lot of grimy stuff. I just want to talk about the fun stuff. I don't want to remember any of the bad things. But I'd say the future's bright because we're not losing any of the past. It's all still here.
Cut.